Welcome to Stranger Encounters. This is Tommy Salmons. My guest today is a drummer for progressive death metal band out of Arizona, Sicmonic, Zack Sewell. Hey, Zack, how are you?
Howdy, Tommy. I'm doing good.
I did pronounce your last name right, didn't I?
Sewell? Yeah, you got it.
Cool. Nailed it. Well, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the new album. When did it release?
Well, it hasn't yet.
Okay.
We got it's still about 2 months, maybe 3 months away. And but we got a couple songs that we have videos for that are already released, that are on the new album. But
Mm-hmm.
just and then we have another video that's going to be released right before the actual album comes out here in a couple months. So that's all on YouTube, and we've been doing the band spreads a lot of their music on Facebook these days through Facebook videos and YouTube, and so that's where we're found at the moment. So as far as the new album goes, the old albums, they're on iTunes and all that stuff.
Right.
Already.
Right. And how long have y'all been together now?
Well, as Sicmonic, let's see, it's been about 2005 when Sicmonic started, 2005, I believe. And I got in at 2007.
Okay.
So,
okay. So over the last 13 years, y'all have seen a lot of changes as far as how the music industry works as technology has advanced. Do you find that beneficial? Would you give the advice to up and coming musicians, young musicians, to pursue it on their own, or do you find that there's still a usefulness for the traditional way and going through different record labels and production companies?
It's a good question. Because at first I thought you were going to ask about the actual, when you start talking about technology, and I think, before you even get to that point, and I'll answer the question, but before that, though, I think a lot of the times people maybe take the technology, well, let me say this: musicianship has got to be right up there on the priority list, where you just have your instrument and you try to get really, really good on just your instrument without a lot of technical aid, so to say. So just you want to be the best musician you can be on whatever your instrument is, and then that's the bottom line. You got to be the best you can be. But as far as the record labels and things like that go, we've never worked with an American label. They've never really been. We've had a label from Italy that was that we were working with.
Mm-hmm.
We've just had a different kind of sound, I guess. I guess the radio's not interested in us. I'm not sure how to say it. I don't know what to say. The American labels have never come to us, and we have given our stuff to them, and we still will. When this new album comes out, we're hoping somebody's interested in that. But I really don't know what the best way is, to be honest with you. All I know is that we try to make the best music that we can, and try to meet people like yourself who are interested in the music and see something in it and want to share it with other people, because people seem to. I mean, we have great fans. I mean, our fans. I love our fans. That's what's kept us going for all these years. They keep coming to the shows. They keep buying the stuff. Our shirts and things like that. And it helps us keep going because we know somebody loves what we're doing. And as far as the record labels go, I would love to meet somebody from one who's really interested in pushing the band really far. But from what I see, I haven't really met that person yet that I know of. And so I don't have anything bad to say about the record labels. I just don't know them.
Okay. Well, you talk about musicianship, and that's really interesting. That's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. One thing I find inspirational about you is I am constantly seeing you put out there that you're learning new techniques, you're working on new things. It's like you never feel like you've mastered your kit, and what drives you to continue to learn different methods of playing the drums and playing different percussion whenever you've spent so much time doing it, and you have a fairly, I wouldn't say overly successful band, but you have a fairly successful band, you have a fairly good following, and y'all are all very talented musicians. And you're not only focusing on that, but you're focusing on the entire craft. And what drives you?
Well, thanks for asking that question. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that drive me, and I'm glad to be thought of like that too. By the way, so I appreciate that. And it's for one, I guess I'll just tell you the most simple is you hear some, and this is going to sound really probably, I don't know about a shallow or vain or really just not that great of an attribute of a person, but when you hear somebody do something really cool on the drums, or you see they get a huge reaction out of a certain thing they do, and you like it, and you think I want to be able to do that. I want to have that sort of weaponry in my arsenal. And when people actually appreciate your drumming or your music, and they come to your shows, it makes you realize, man, I better be really good. And because everybody deserves it. You're spending a lot of time away from your family just to practice, and everything about music says you should do it to be the best you can at it. And for me, I played heavy metal stuff for forever, for 20 years, and to a degree, I've come to a certain degree of mastery over a lot of techniques in metal, but I've always loved mixing, because I like a lot of different kinds of music. Right. I don't like just heavy metal. I like all kinds of different stuff, and therefore I hear different sounds, and some of those Latin style beats or other world kind of beats, they're almost too hard to pick up by ear, and that's how I've been learning for years. Is I would just I was a drummer that played by ear, like a lot of other drummers are. I never learned how to read music and all that stuff, but when I got to the point where I really wanted to pick up other styles and stuff, it required learning how to read music, and so I went and I found a really good instructor, coach, and you had to start back over like as if you hadn't played drums for 20 years, and you walked in there and had to start from like day one. And I was doing things that I did 20 years ago, but I didn't know. And so, long story short, is you had to learn to read the music a little bit to use it as a map to get where you want to go on some of those beats, because they're too complicated to pick up by ear. And I just love the drums, and I think you could do it for 1,000 years, and you'd probably never figure it all out.
That's interesting. Yeah.
There's a lot of things. Yeah, there's a lot of things that drive me, but I just want to be the best drummer that I can be. I want to be you want that reaction from people. You want people to go, dude, that was awesome, or man, you want it to make it worth it that they came out to see you.
Yeah. You're putting out a great product, yes. And one thing I don't remember who it was that said it. I want to say it was Ray, but it could have been you. Somebody was asking y'all about the way y'all wrote music and the way you structure your songs. It was probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I remember somebody said it was like composing an orchestra. Is there is that an accurate depiction of how y'all write y'all's music? Is there a specific structure you look for when you go into the writing process? Do you start off with a specific way, or is it pretty raw? It just seems like, as technical as y'all's music is, you have to have a very technical ear for being able to draft compositions of that nature.
Yeah. Right. Well, Ray is he is like a one-man orchestra. Not that sounds like a pretty crazy thing to say, and it sounds like it's not. Well, I don't know how it sounds to you, but he can really play anything with strings, and he's got a extremely well trained. He's extremely well trained. He knows all the theory, all that stuff, and he knows all the theory, but then he's got a very creative soul as well. And so when and I know, if you take a couple steps back, the band normally, like almost throughout its entire history, has written a certain way, and it still does, and it's really starts off with a single riff, whether it be a guitar or violin. It almost always starts off with just one idea, and that idea usually it took 10 ideas to get that one cool riff. Because maybe the bass player will come up with a riff, and it's okay, but it's not really that cool. But it might inspire the guitar player to do something similar but a little cooler, and then you're like, oh, and then everybody feeds off each other until you get something really, really that's really cool, just one thing, and then it kind of layers from that point until you have something that resembles a song. But the reason I started off with Ray is, at that point, when the structure is usually there, he'll come back over it and start putting his magic to it. And it always turns out, and what I was telling you about his creativeness with notes and things, is because he knows all the proper theory. So you're always in where you're supposed to be, but then he has a great way. I like to say the whole band has a great way of taking the normal thing but twisting it in a creative way, where it's interesting and you want to hear it. and try to make it as unique as we can.
Yeah, well, and y'all's sound is, you were saying earlier that you're not just a metal fan, and that's one of the things I appreciate about y'all's sound is y'all have, you know, some of the heaviest songs and some of the most melodic songs that I've ever heard. And
oh, thank you. So I tell you, hear the new album.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm excited for it. I've heard one song off of there, and I'm excited to hear some more. But
right on, brother.
I think it's very hard to nail y'all down. I actually felt funny when introducing you, and I was like, yeah, it's a progressive death metal band, but because you're not. You're a progressive band, but I don't know about death metal. There's some death metal influence, obviously, in certain things, but there's some songs that are just absolutely gorgeous, you know, and it's just, I think maybe that's why y'all have trouble with record labels or radio, is you don't fit into a box, and everybody's looking for that 4/4 time, you know.
That's so funny you say that, you know, and because I thought that, and we've talked about that a lot, you know, and we've wondered, though, because we never really knew the answer, but, you know, we don't really fit exactly, but we've always loved that. Now, I always love that when somebody says, well, you know, what band do you sound like? And you're like, well, you know, I like to think we sound like ourselves. We sound like Sicmonic, and that's what I think we've accomplished over the years. But of course, it's influenced by, you know, a million different bands. And hey, as a drummer, the band is like the dream come true, because there's no what do you call that? There's no creative cutoff. There's no place where the guys will be like, hey, you know what? We don't play that slow. We don't play any sort of slow song. Or they don't say, hey, we don't play that fast or anything. There's no limits. It's just whatever sounds cool, whatever we come up with. But we try to, you know, package it in a way where it's really something special, not just completely for ourselves, but to be a good song ultimately, as we try to make a good song.
Yeah, and take every song as an individual or an independent structure away from the entirety of an album, and you end up with the eclectic sound like what y'all have. If you feel like you have to make every song fit into a certain mold, then you get bands that start sounding like AC/DC, and you know, one of them is enough for me.
Right. I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, they've got it down, man. Yeah, but I know what you mean, where they kind of have a recipe, so to say, and it works great. But yeah, they're already them.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing is, we don't go out to sound. Well, that's not true. We do go out to sound different, but I mean, what it is I really love all kinds of drumming. And so I'm trying to throw beats in. I mean, you know, lately I've been learning Mozambiques and bossa novas and things like that. I haven't got to stick a bossa nova in a Sicmonic song yet, but I did get a Mozambique in there. And it's just really fun because then Ray, he plays the violin, he plays the keyboards, he plays acoustic guitar, electric guitar, anything with strings, but those instruments I just named, he plays all the time. And so every song, well, not every tune, but you just naturally get a real different sound out of things because you're playing with different instruments. Sometimes you might break out a violin and it's just going to sound different. So the guys aren't always necessarily trying to make a song that, hey, that we got to make this sound different. It's just, I think we have, like you were saying, we all love a lot of different kinds of music, and so the influences come from a lot of different places. And you know, when certain things meet up with other certain things, it creates it's trying to create something that's unique. Yeah.
When you were learning how to play the drums, was it like were you idolizing like a Neil Peart, John Bonham type who's like super technical and just brilliant, or were you looking at, you know, more basic drummers as the people that you were modeling yourself after?
It was the basic guys.
Really?
It was Kiss and Twisted Sister.
Wow.
Yeah, that was I mean, when I was 6 years old and I heard Twisted Sister, We're Not Gonna Take It, that drum part in the beginning, and I wanted to be a drummer, and I've never stopped.
Okay.
Just that simple.
You're such a technical drummer. I would have put you as one of those, like my first album, when I was 8 years old, the first album I ever bought was Rush, Fly By Night. I just assumed it was the same for you.
Yeah. No, it was those other guys. It was the opposite. But that's how I learned how to play those. I would have never been able to even start if I would have tried to learn Rush right off the bat. I'd still be trying to figure it out probably.
Yeah.
But so I guess lucky me, the guys I liked was something I could handle.
Yeah.
But
you're Def Leppard, and you're like, if he can do that with one arm, I can do it with two.
Yeah, right. You should be able to. You've been playing a while, but I started listening to heavier stuff when I was like 14, 15. I think I was 14 when I was like introduced to the double bass. And it was like Overkill and Pantera,
right?
And Megadeth, a little bit of Megadeth stuff. Not much, but that's when I started liking the double bass, and that went into all the death metal, you know.
Yeah. Do you listen like closely to other drummers and try to see what they're doing? Do you have a favorite drummer around today, or?
Now, I don't really have a one favorite drummer. If I have to say my favorite, I mean, it's probably, that's a pretty tough question. I've been asked that so many times, and I haven't had a favorite drummer in 15 years.
Oh, right.
I love a lot of different, I love a whole bunch of different drummers, and they're just from one side of the spectrum to the complete other. I mean, it would have to be like there's just so many of them and that play way different things. And hey, you know what? I'll give you an example of something that I like to do. So I don't even know. I can't even pronounce their names. They're like Brazilian guys, and they do the sambas and crazy Brazilian drumming. That's every limb is doing a completely different thing.
Right.
And the Afro-Cuban drumming, the mambos and things like that. And those kind of beats. And then you have, let's just say, for instance, George Colios. Do you know who that guy is?
No, I don't.
Or Shannon Lucas. They're George Colios. He's or Colias. I'm not sure how to even pronounce his name exactly. He's from Holland or something. I'm not sure, but he's double bass guy. He's blast beat. He's like amazingly fast. They're super technical in the metal, But I've never seen any one of those guys do each other's stuff. I've never seen a death metal guy that's super tight and technical really do a lot of Latin beats or Afro-Cuban beats in their metal. Although I know it's been done. Yes, there's probably somebody out there going, well, Sepultura did certain things like that, and I think Dillinger, Escape Plan, he does some weird beats and things like that, but not that often do you hear different worlds meeting each other on the drums, and that's what I like to do, because that's what I like to hear, and so that's what I like to play. And the guys in Sicmonic, I'm so fortunate because they can do all that stuff and make it sound, and present it in a really cool way. Like the singer can scream like death metal, and he can sing like a really melodic notes, and and those guys just have a wide variety of capabilities, and so that makes it the possibilities really open for what kind of music you can make and so that's what we try to be the best that we can be. And that's kind of another thing that goes back to what you're talking about driving me is I want to push the limits. I want to be that band that's, pushing the limits all the time. At least, That's.
No, you can go as long as you want, man. I'm not gonna tell you to be quiet. This is for you to get out there.
It's right on, brother. Right on. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I know we're coming close to cutoff time though. I was sitting here, we're at 33 minutes, and I know I don't want to keep you too long, but one thing I would like, I think would be interesting is one of the things that frustrated me when I was younger, because I did try to get a band together, and a few times I tried to get a few bands together, and one of the things that frustrated me was dealing with other people's schedules and dealing with them, whether or not they were going to flake out or they're going to show up. And how long did you search for the right group of guys to jam with before you found that the same commitment that you had? And the reason I ask this is because there are going to be young guys out there that are talented guys that give up on putting together a band because they don't think it's ever going to come together, and that you just caught lightning in a bottle. But finding the right group of guys is almost as much work as learning the instrument. And how long was it that it took you?
Man, that's an in-depth question. It really is. And I think you're exactly right, man. It took a long time, a really long time. And I was really lucky to get with one guy when I was 14, I think, and we stayed together all the way up until that second Sicmonic album. But him and I, so I went like 3 years as a drummer, couldn't find nobody, because nobody, I lived in Montana and there just wasn't very many guys to play with. I had my buddies and we tried some stuff, but it just, we made noise. It wasn't really a band at first. And I'm going to say it took 12 years to find other people. Yeah. I was 20, I'd be like 22 years old. After playing since I was in bands, since I was 13.
Yeah.
That's 12 years.
about 9 years.
Right, so something like that. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe
we're right in that area.
Somewhere around there, around 10 years. Yeah, I guess.
Right around by the time you're 25, and you had figured it out.
Yeah. But then, even then, it's always been a battle, and it still is. It still is. I mean, you still have things pop up all the time in life. I'm glad now that we've gotten like 10 million hours of practice under our belt, to where if a practice must be missed, we can survive it,
Right.
Because we went for years on end, 3 times a week, every year, for years and years. Show or not, always went to practice.
Yeah.
And we're absolutely committed to practice and everybody really stuck to it for a really, really long time. And when guys, I guess, families and things like that, now are where you can't practice 3 days a week anymore. But we still do 2. And it's all about practice. The whole thing's about practice. So so that's why I say you're so right. It's unless you're in a, I remember a cover band I used to know, and this is a good cover band. They made a lot of money playing cover songs. And when I asked the guy about practice, he laughed at me. Actually, him and his bass player or something, they laughed and they said, "We don't practice. We already know the songs. They practice it at their own time, at their house or wherever. They just know the songs. They figured them out on their own time somewhere else. And they meet up at the show and play the song because they already know how they're supposed to sound."
Right.
But
it's structured
but
for
it's
you.
not that. Yeah. And if you're that good, those guys were exceptionally good, and they could do that. But they still had to put the time in somewhere. But
Right.
But the difference is with originals, is that you got to make the music up, unless you got some guy in the band who makes up all the music and he just hands it to you and then you learn it, which some bands do, and that works out for some bands really well. And sometimes it makes for stale songs. Our band, it's never worked all that great. It's just never really worked that good.
Yeah.
So we all pretty much create them together. But anyway, you got to practice together as a unit and on your own time. It's just like a sport to me. You could pick any sport, any team sport, especially, where, your football, let's say football, and the running back, he's practicing running back moves all the time. He's practicing to make himself a better running back, so he's a better tool on that team. And at team time, because team time, he's just got to be on point already. So it's like just all about practice. You got to practice on your own time. You got to practice with the band, and you got to find other guys that want to do that. And sometimes you'll find a guy who's not that great at his instrument right now. He's not like 10 years in or something like that yet. But you can see he's picking it up real fast, or he's getting better really quick. And you want to look for those kind of guys sometimes, where you can see potential because they have if they just have pure skill and that's it, and they don't have drive and all that stuff, they might not work out for you. Maybe it's just a lot of different variables. But I always look for the guys with potential and who have drive, because if they have the drive and they have the potential, they're going to get there. They're going to get to that place where they're really good.
Right.
It's just how long do you where are they at? And where are you at it? If you need a guy to fill in at some big major concert right now, and he's got potential, but he doesn't have all the skills, then maybe it's a different situation. You got to hire somebody for whatever. But you know what I mean. I
got you, man. I got you.
Yeah. A lot of people don't see that, though. They pass up potential.
Yeah.
They pass up potential because they want the right now, but a year goes by really fast, you know, and before you know it, you're like, you know, you got to think of a band as like that's where you think of it as a business. I know some people frown on that, go, band business. It is a business.
It's a business, and it's in a lot of ways, it's also family. You spend so much time with these people, you better make sure that you're going to be getting along with each other beyond the 30 minutes y'all sat there and auditioned together.
Totally, man. That's a big part of it. Chemistry, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the chemistry thing. And
well, hey, man, we've been going about 40 minutes now. I know you got places to go, and I know there's more things I want to talk to you about. So what I want to do is I want to tell you I'm gonna get back in touch with you at a later date, and we're gonna try to do this again. And when we have a little bit more time, I want to talk to you a little bit about your jiu-jitsu and this, that, and the other.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Tommy, I want to thank you, man, for your time. I really appreciate it. And I know you've been, I see that you've been watching the band for a while, and I appreciate that. We all do. And,
y'all are putting out a great product, man. Y'all are putting out a great product. I'm not going to turn on you unless you start releasing shit. So.
Okay, good. Well, then we deserve it. If that's what happens, we deserve it.
Yeah. But no, man, I appreciate y'all's music. I appreciate the effort y'all put into it, because I like to think deep about things, and I like those complicated bands, you know, the Mastodon, Meshuggah, the Dillinger Escape Plan. That. I like that stuff, you know.
Oh yeah.
So whenever I find a band that like that, you know, that's able to bring me to that spot that satisfies that thinking side of me, I stick with them, man.
Hell yeah.
That's rare. But I'm just gonna ask you to hang on. I'm gonna close down the show, and then we'll hang up, and you can get on your way.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, man. Well, thank you everybody for listening. This has been Stranger Encounters. That was Zack Sewell with Sicmonic, and I am Tommy Salmons. Later.
The only thing that brings attention